I did tune my harp tonight. No guarantees. The weather has been crazy here in Indiana. It was sub freezing last week. It's been really warm this week. It's supposed to get really cold again tomorrow. So there we go. It's so I'm doing my best. All right. So tonight is Tuesday, December 10th. Yay! And we're going to be talking about a couple things. I called this one Twinkling the Season Bright. So improvising some simple melodies and accompaniments for winter songs, festive themes and motifs or motives for sparkling music and joyful music, and improvisation skills. And so if you spend any time with me, and most of you have, a lot of this is going to be repeat and practice. And I had a request um, this week to sometime between here, same here in Pittsburgh, yeah. Well, we're practically, neighbors in terms of weather. Um, oh, thank you, Mary. Hope you're feeling better. Yes, I'm feeling much better. I finally stopped coughing. I'm stopped being stuffed up. The virus seems to have moved on to somebody else. I don't know who, but I tried to keep it away from everybody else. Oh, no, 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 no. I didn't mail it to you, I promise. Um, but I hope you feel better as well. So tonight we're going to talk about Twinkling the Holidays Bright. And before we get started, one of the things that I did when I wasn't feeling so great was I put together a booklet. And if you haven't gotten it yet, I will send it to you. Just remind me, send me a note, and I will. And it's also the link to this booklet is in the last newsletter that I sent out, so it's there at the bottom if you haven't gotten it. But it started as a post that somebody else produced, and I thought, oh, this is a really great idea. This is showing common chord progressions in multiple different keys. And I thought, oh, I'm going to recreate this for harpists because I want to include the levers and some other explanation. And it turned into a 7-page thing that I'm going to talk about tonight in terms of how to use this booklet for making holiday-ish kinds of music and holiday-ish kinds of improvisations. So let's start there. Let me share my screen with you. And make it the right section going. I think that's it. Oh, that's my whole screen. We don't want that. Let's do, there we go. That's what we want. So this is 7 pages. It may get extended to a few more pages as you guys ask me questions or I think of things as we go along tonight. So let me just quickly go through the front matter of the 7-page booklet. You are welcome to make a copy of this booklet and share it with friends as long as you give it proper credit to the author, which is me. Join the Improvising Harpist Facebook group. Most of you are already there. My free PlayShops are here. Private lessons are here. If you find the booklet helpful, please drop me a note so that I can share your success with others. So I may have told this story before, but for years and years and years, musical production was this big mystery to me because I'd learned to read music very early in life, and I could read scores. I learned to read scores because my dad checked out the opera scores for the operas that were being produced at the Metropolitan Opera every weekend. Texaco produced these on the radio, and we used to sit at the table and read the scores as the opera was going on. A little aside to the story is that my dad could not read music. He was dyslexic. He was left-handed, born in South Baptist, Texas, where being left-handed was considered a sign of the devil. He was forced to be right-handed, and throughout his entire life, he had left and right confused, and reading was a real problem for him, and reading music was almost impossible for him, and he never really understood what all the sticks and balls meant, but he could follow the shape of the music, and he had very excellent ears. So he learned everything by ear and pretended to read, which was a real tragedy that he never really learned to read music because he was so embarrassed that he couldn't read. But magically, he was able to pass on reading to me because he would check out the scores from the music library at the local university every weekend, and we would sit down in the kitchen and turn on the radio and listen to Texaco Metropolitan Opera from the Met and read the scores. And so that's how I learned to read music at a very early age. But what I didn't learn how to do was how to memorize and how to know music by chords and by progressions and by feel. That came much, much, much later, much, much, much later. So music was this huge mystery to me, and I just wondered, like, how do pop and rock and jazz and folk players play for hours and hours and hours without knowing, without reading any music? They didn't ever have any music, and they were just playing up there. Those rock and roll guys or the jazz guys, they weren't reading anything. They were just playing. So how did they do it? So when I learned chord progressions and the numbering system and the circle of fifths and the modes and some other things, this is like I was given the keys to the kingdom. And I will be forever grateful to Susan Zievenbergen, who lives in Fort Collins, Colorado, and the International Harp Therapy Program, because she was a teacher, may still be a teacher for them, for International Harp Therapy Program, but they taught me the modes and how to play by ear and how to play by chord progressions. And all of a sudden I went, oh my gosh, it's not that hard. It's really not that hard. There are some keys you have to be given, but once you get them, then the whole world of organized music can open up to you. And that's why I wrote this little booklet. So I also want to mention a few other teachers that I mentioned here, Jeff Gaith and Frank Masacchio, who were my first jazz teachers. That Jeff was a flute teacher and Frank was a bass teacher, and they were so patient with me while I figured out how to play the harp, how to play jazz on the harp, because these two were amazing jazz players already in their own right. They happened to live in Hawaii where there just weren't that many musicians, and they put up with me figuring out on a dusty strings with two levers how to play jazz things on a harp. They were amazing. Donna Wickham, who I give a big shout out to. Donna I've known since Girl Scout camp. Just retired from jazz vocal studies at the University of Denver. And Ben Creighton Griffiths, who you guys know I have talked about lots and lots and lots. He's an amazing jazz player in Wales. I've studied with him off and on over the years, and he's open for lessons. And if you want to learn more about how to play jazz on the harp, he gives lessons by Zoom for a very reasonable price. So lots of other teachers along the way, but these guys were awesome. So this common chord progression booklet started as a simple chart, and then I realized, oh, I get these questions all the time from so many players that I wanted to include some very basic fundamental stuff. So a lot of you guys know how to do this, how to set your harps up to play in certain keys. So if you need me to go over that, just raise your hand and let me know. Otherwise, I'll skip over that section. And then the chord numbering system, which is technically called Roman numeral analysis. I was looking it up as I was writing this. There's a word for this, Roman numeral analysis, that allows us to analyze and describe chord progressions within a specific key. We use Roman numerals. So if you need me to go over this in detail, I will be more than happy to do that. But what I really want to get into here is how to take this and turn it into holiday sounding music. So let me move ahead, and if you need me to answer questions, you get lost or whatever, just raise your hand or put something in the chat. Mary's really good at helping me see what you're asking. And yes, Dr. Candace.
Mary put something in the chat. It's really hard to see that because it's very small on the screen. Can you do something with that?
Is that better?
It's getting there. Yes. Okay.
Okay, so let me go I'll just go back slowly so that if you want to read this, you can stop the video and read this later. And if you want to read this in the privacy of your own home, just send me a note and I will send you the link to this as a Google Drive file. So here's the first page. Here's the introduction. I'll stop here for a second so someone can pause this and read it. We'll go on to the next page. You can pause that and read that. How to set the levers for each key. All right, chord numbering system. And here we go. So here's the C scale, which we've been working in most of the time, but you see, so I want to be really clear that 1 does not equal C always, just in the C scale. So I'll demonstrate that in a second. We've got D minor. The lowercase Roman numerals indicate a minor key. Here's E minor. Uppercase Roman numerals indicate a major. Here's a G major. Here's an A minor. And here's the B diminished. Oh, I thought I fixed that. I'll fix it again. I'll put it there. So the little degree means B diminished, and I'm not going to talk about that too much, but if you want to know more about that, just send me a note and I'll explain that to you. We don't use it very much in Western music, and we're certainly not going to use it in Christmas music. So you can just say, okay, there's a little thing with a degree symbol. I don't know what that is, and you can ignore it. So how to make your own songs using chord progressions. So you can make your own songs using chord progressions. Many songs use an A-A-B-A song form where the A is one chord progression and the B is a second chord progression. So here's an example of an A-A-B-A. I guess I should do this. Here's the A. Here's the B. There's lots of A's and B's and numbers in music, and keeping them all straight is a little bit tricky. So this does not refer to a chord. This refers to a song section. Here's an A section. Here's a B section. Here's an A section. Here's another, this is just a different chord progression, but using the same song form. The beauty of doing this as a Google Docs, like I'm doing it, is that I'm updating it live. If you come back to revisit this document later, you'll have all the changes in the document. So I'll come back to these in a second. I want to go on to the chart itself.
I think you need a B in there.
Oh, thank you. There we go. So many songs string together multiple chord progressions, and you can try your own. So this is a common song form, but it's not the only song form. Many songs string together multiple chord progressions. And I figured that out when I tried to list common songs that use chord progressions. And there are some that use basic chord progressions, but the more complex chord progressions are parts of songs, but not all of songs. So we'll take a look at some of those examples in a second. Okay, but I want to look at the chart. So this was the thing that prompted all of this to begin with. So a guy whose name I can't remember starts with a V. I posted a few of his charts in the Improvising Harpist Facebook group. Posted this a couple weeks ago, and I said, "Oh, that's a really cool chord progression or a chart. I want to remake it into something that harpists can use." And so I did. So his original version is slightly different from this. It's all the same information, but this is slightly in a different organization, and I included the lever changes here. So I want to start with this one because this is the one that gets used a lot for Christmas music, holiday music, also for lullabies and church hymns. It's very happy. It's used in, if you do healing work, it's really good for babies and animals. Nature loves this. When I play this outside, birds come all the time. So sit outside and play this chord progression for 20 minutes, you'll have birds coming. I promise you. I've just seen it too many times myself and with my students. So when I put this chart together, I wanted to do this in different keys. Here's the key of C. Here's key, the first note of the scale is C. The fourth note is F. The fifth note is G. So if we're going to play in the key of C, we're going to make songs that have C chords, F chords, and G chords. I encourage you to pick the songs that you love and go look at them. And if you have, let me stop sharing for just a second and show you. If you have this book, lots of people do. This is Sylvia Wood's Christmas Carols book. Everybody's nodding. Oh, yes, I've seen this book before. You can go in this book and find, she's got songs in key of C and key of G. But if you look at the first Noel, if you have it handy, or if you're on the video later, you can stop the video, go to page 24, and I'll hold it up here so you can see it. The thing I love about Sylvia's books is that A, she's taken the time to work out fingering, and B, she's taken the time to give you the chords as well as both hands notated. I think my personal opinion is all music should be written this way for harpists. This requires an extra level of care, but it makes things so much easier. But if you look at this song, the first Noel, you'll see that she, not whoever, traditional, I have to go look up who actually wrote this song originally, but there's a C chord, a G chord, an F chord, a C chord, an F chord, a G chord, a C chord, a G chord, a C chord. These are the three chords that are in this first progression. So I'm going to go back to sharing here for a second. So if you're looking for something to play coming up, you've got something to play. There's a reason to play. You're playing at church, or you're playing for friends, or you're playing just for yourself, or you're trying to figure out what to play that sounds kind of holiday-ish or Christmassy, Yuletide-ish. This 1-4-5 chord progression works. It's solid. It will make people happy. It's because it's three happy chords together, it's going to make people happy and make my whole talk tonight is twinkling the season bright. This makes the season twinkle. This is, if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, it's very dark here. And so any source of light we can get, musically or otherwise, this is a good place to find that. So let's play around with that a little bit. I'm going to move over to the harp here. And I'm going to stop sharing for a second. Okay. I wasn't playing in another key earlier. I still got that new G. I promise you I tuned the harp. I put a new G string on it recently enough that it's still a little wonky. So let's start with something really, really simple, and then we'll move into something a little more complicated. So you can just play the triad, the C, E, G, C, E, G. One and two and three and two, three, four. Then an F. Two, three, four. Back to C. Two, three, four. Two, three, G. Two, three, C. So let's just do a little bit of imagine if. So you're playing a background gig or you're playing for yourself. You don't need to play songs particularly, but you're filling a space with some magical sound. You can do just those chords and make something that sounds wonderful. You can make something that sounds wonderful, just that. So if we go back, new message, could it make it larger? Okay, I did that. All right, so I'm just playing triads, and that's perfectly serviceable. There's nothing wrong with that. It works great. G. Let's just see. So I'm playing it in 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Whatever. So when you're playing that kind of thing, you want to think about, do I want to play this in 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, or do I want to play it in 3? One, two, three, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Both are fine. You can feel for what you feel like. I typically go to 3/4 or 6/8, but tonight I went to 4/4. So here's another 3/4 on F. Back to C. Off to G. Back to C. Now, how long can you do that for? As long as you like. Especially if you're doing background music, there is nobody standing around going, she already played that, or he already played that. They're talking to their friends. If it's at a church service and they're arriving or they're leaving, they're not sitting there thinking, oh, she already played that arpeggio. It's so boring. You are creating a cradle of sound. You're creating a blanket of sound. You're creating an environment. You're filling the environment with sound that is pleasing and encourages conversation. My business cards used to say, and still say actually, music that nourishes relationships. And was really important during COVID. More now, people get out a little bit more. But I was always encouraging people to linger. Music that encourages people to linger. That's what we're trying to do. Get people to slow down, hang out with their friends, talk a little longer, create those connections, those so important connections with each other. So that's what we're doing. That's what this chart that I sent out is, to give you lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of ideas for things you can do to create music, to make people linger, to give them a space where they can, because you know, if you've been in an environment where the music is playing and then it stops, and then the room sounds dead and everybody wants to escape. It's like, oh, we should get out of here now. But if you keep playing, people keep wanting to stay, and you can keep nourishing that. You can keep encouraging that with your music. And of course, you have to talk with your organizers and make sure how long you need to play for and stuff like that. But know that what you're offering is a musical hug. Like, it's okay to stay and talk with your friends. It's okay to stay and linger. It's okay to be here and listen. Some people just sit and listen to the music. I find that actually the most intimidating, when people are like sitting in the front row of church and listening very closely to what I'm doing. But they're so in love with the music. They're so in love with the harp. So you got to just like, okay, I'm playing to create this love affair that they're having with the music. They're not there judging me like Mrs. Jones, my 6th grade teacher, who is, you know, the music teacher or whatever is. That's not who's there. It's, you know, your fellow companions in life who are so interested in what you're doing. Okay, so let's talk about a few other things you can do with that chord progression. That's that same C, F, G chord progression. So you can do triads, but triads, as you probably can hear, can get a little muddy, especially in the bottom, where, especially if you start down here. So it gets a little muddy down there, just by nature of the strings being so large and boingy. So what I like to do is leave out the 3rd note and just play the C, the G, and the C. The 1st, the 5th, and the 8th. So if you've heard of a 1, 5, 8, this is what we're talking about, 1, 5, 8, which this is super low on my harp. I can play it up 1 octave. I can even play it up here. I can even play it up here. But as a left-hand pattern, I tend to like it on the starting on the C below middle C, the G below middle C, and then middle C itself. And there are physics reasons and harpistic reasons why I feel like those notes are really superstars. And most harps have those notes. Even the harpsicles have, that's their lowest note, is that low C. The dusty strings also, that's the lowest note, I think, on those harps. You can play them down here. But I will throw them in as spice rather than as main course notes. These are main course notes. And then, because my thumb is playing the middle C, it's not easy for me to play C, E, G with the right hand. So I move up to the next inversion, which is E, G, C. That's an F. There's the G. So that's another two-handed pattern that you can use, and those 3 chords to fill the space, to fill the time. And you can do them so this is where it's really helpful to go back and study the chord progressions in some of your favorite songs. And that's why Sylvia's book is so great, that the chord progressions are written out. And you can go back and strip the melody out and just play the chords. So if I'm going to play the first Noel, well, first I'll play the melody and tell you what the chords are here, if you don't have the book in front of you. Sorry, I didn't tell you ahead of time that I was going to do this. But it goes to a C, to a G, F, C, back to an F, C, G, just for that one, and then back to C, and then the chorus, C, which is almost the same as the verse, G, F, C, F. C, G. That's the chords with the melody. Now if I'm just going to play the chords, I'm going to do, let's start off the tune though so I can get it. Here's the next section. This is the chorus. F. But I didn't do what I said. I was messing around with the melody a little bit. So let me do this a little bit differently. So it's just chords. It's just chords. G, F, C, F, C, C. So I'm not playing the melody at all. I'm playing chords. It sounds twinkly, Christmassy, and it's following a structure. I think probably in 2025 is going to be like the year of structure, where I'm going to talk a lot more about structuring improvisations. Because when I first teach people how to improvise, like just play what you feel is good. And then later we'll add structure to it because structure makes it a little more complicated. So let's go back and look at one of the structures. So note, first inversion has the thumb on the root note, then skip 2 strings below and play the next string, skip 1 string. Okay, yeah, so yeah. So when your root, let me just go over that for a second. So your root is every other string. Your first inversion is skips it, goes every other string and then every 2 strings. So C, E, G, C. And then your next inversion skips 2 strings and then skips 1 string. And thank you for posting that, Mary. And I want to show you guys a little trick if I haven't, pardon me if I'm repeating this, but I think it's worth. Oh wait, no, I don't want to share my screen. I want to do Spotlight. I should have done that earlier. Spotlight. Nope. There we go. I should have done that sooner, sorry. So here we have every other string. So C, skip 1 string, E, skip 1 string. This is a root position. You take the bottom string here, the C, and move it to the top and move up so that your middle finger is on an E, your 2 finger is on the G, and your thumb is on the C up here. This is the first inversion. And my dear teacher, Susan Zievenbergen, who I mentioned at the very beginning, she taught me this really cool mnemonic memory aid. That your thumb is finger number 1, and when your thumb is on the C here, it's the first inversion. Finger number 1. Then to make the second inversion, you're going to take your E off the bottom here, put it on the top up here, and move your hand up. So your third finger is now on the G, 2 fingers on the C, thumb is on the E. So now your second finger is on the C, second inversion. And then if you take the the G off the bottom and put it on the top up here, you got back to the root up 1 octave. So inversions, I say this a lot, it's still true. Practice your inversions. With both hands. Could I do that at first? No. Took me a long time to be able to do it that fast, but it's worth it, I promise you, because the hand positions for the 3 different inversions are the same for every chord. So a root position C, hand position is the same position as the root position D minor, same as the root position E minor, same as the root position F, so forth. They're the same. So those same 3 hand positions are going to work for all of your inversions, all of your chords. It doesn't work this way on the piano. Not at all. If you play piano, it does not work this way. It's so much easier on the harp. It's so much easier on the harp. Okay, let's go back and look at, okay, now I do want to share my screen. Boop, 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 boop. Let's go back to my little booklet. And again, if you need the booklet, just send me a note and I will send it to you. I want to look at this one right here that I made up. I just made this up. I just pulled 2 chord progressions off the table, stuck them together and said, I hope it works. We'll try it here. I'm pretty sure it's going to work, but I wanted to put 2 really different chord progressions together to see if they were going to work. And I encourage you to do the same. Try stuff, test stuff, be a harp scientist. Just try things and see if they work and see if they work for you. Maybe it works for somebody else, but it doesn't work for you, or maybe you found something that you absolutely love. So here we go. I'm going to move down here so you can see the actual chord. You can see the chord numbers, but also you can see them in the key of C here. So we've got a C chord. I'm going to go back to root position here, play mid root. So I've got a C, F, G, which we've been playing with here. Let's do that again. C, going to do a D minor. I can already see I need to make some adjustments to this. Okay, so here are my adjustments to this. Not always, but often, we group things in groups of 4. So I'm going to add a 1 here at the end of this 1, 4, 5, and I will add it to the chart after we're done talking this evening. So groups of 3 can be kind of fun, but I'm going to make it simple for now and do things in groups of 4. So what that's going to look like for us tonight is I'm going to add another chord here. Come on, fingers, we can do this. There we go. G, C. Oh my gosh, my fingers. There we go. There we go. Okay. Okay. Turn it down. Okay. So we've got the C, F, G, C, C, F, G, C, D minor, G, C. Honestly, I think I could do this. C, 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 F, G, C. There we go. So here we go. So is there C, F, G, C. That's the first one. I'm going to do the A section again. C, F, G, C. Now I'm going to the B section, D minor. Do that twice. And now C, F, so I'm being a harp scientist now, and I'm saying, well, it's basic and it works, but I don't love it. And what I don't love is there's lots of C's right here. C, 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 C. So I'm going to change this to a G. And I'm going to change this to a 5. So that it sounds like C, F, G, C. Second line, G, C. Now B section, D minor. It's better. I'm not super excited about that either. But I want you to see me going through my thought process, because I want you to go through the same thought process. To think, well, I thought that was going to be better than I thought it was going to be. So if I do a D minor, that's an F. D minor. I'm going to leave it as is for now, but know that I'm like, oh, if I'm really going to play around with this, I'm going to come back to this and spend some more time with it and go back to the chart below and maybe choose something entirely differently, like the D minor G, C, G thing might not be as productive as I'm thinking it was going to be. It seemed cool at the time when I was writing it out, like, ooh, a minor chord, that'll sound cool. and it's maybe not working as well as I would like. So this brings me back to um, something that I say a lot, which is listen to your heart. Listen to your heart, listen to your heart. What is it that your harp is telling you to do next? So when you're playing your own music, let me say that another way. When you're playing Christmas music or folk music or pop music or your favorite music, I want you to listen with different ears and say, okay, well, what are the chords that are underlying that thing that I'm playing? Could I strip the melody off of that and just play the chords and play something different on top of it? Or how is maybe in 2025, we'll talk about how certain melodies are constructed from chord progressions. I think that's a worthwhile conversation to have, to understand how some songs their melodies relate to the chords that are underneath them. I think learning how to see that makes reading, especially sight reading, a lot easier if you're interested in doing more reading, but also more composing and choosing notes. So so let's get back to twinkling the season. So when you're playing your background music for yourself or your family or your church or your Kiwanis Club or whatever, Moose Lodge or what Elks Club or whatever you're playing for, it's, your Red Hat Society, who knows? Somebody's asked you to come and play for a tea or a Christmas party or a, Yuletide something, holiday, whatever, and you've got like, and you only really want to play like 3 songs or 4 songs, or you've only got time, but you got to fill the space with something else. This 1-4-5 works really, really well. So I'm going to finish tonight by sharing Hawaiian music with you. I've talked about this in the past, but I did a long study of the last queen of Hawaii and her music, and she almost entirely wrote in a major key. She hardly ever wrote a minor chord, ever. And she wrote 300 songs in a major key. Yeah, 300 songs in a major key. So 1-4-5 was her thing. And she did it in different keys, but she did it in different subjects, but she almost always wrote in a happy way. So one of the tunes that I really love is called Sanoe. And so I learned it first as the melody. Which starts on a C chord, moves to an F chord, moves to a G chord, back to an F, back to C, C, F, C, G, and that's the entirety of the melody, and it's got 500 verses. So it's a story about courtly intrigue. It sounds like this beautiful, like lullaby, kids song, whatever, but no. It's about one of her cousins who got naughty with somebody she wasn't supposed to be, but she hid it in this beautiful melody. So when I've played that in the past, then because it's such a short tune, that's the entirety of the tune. Then I got to fill the space with more, because traditionally the song is sung, and like I said, there's lots and lots of verses. Well, when you're singing this, yeah, you can go on and on and on and sing this song, but I, as a harpist, have to fill this space with my own creations. So I do. I'm still keeping to the same chord structure underneath, and then I'm using mainly inversions to create the, call it a false melody on top, an improvised something that goes on top. And I'm not going to go into exactly how I'm doing that right now, but you can do the same thing for yourself by just doing. Here's just the chords. And by the way, you don't have to make up your own chords. You can just borrow the first Noel chords. Or Silent Night. Silent Night's also another great 1-4-5. The last thing I want to finish off with is to show you the last part of the this booklet, which turned out to be harder than I thought it was going to be when I started working on it. So here's the whole table, lots and lots and lots of different chord progressions and different keys. Here are familiar songs in some chord progressions. So here's some 1-4-5s. Amazing Grace, Danny Boy, Parting Glass, Wild Man. These are Celtic tunes. Here's some pop tunes. Hallelujah. People love Hallelujah. That is a 1-4-5 tune with a little bit of 6/4 tossed in there at the end. So these are different tunes. Not everything is strictly 1-4-5, but has a heavy 1-4-5 influence. There might be some extra chords thrown in here and there. I tried to find tunes that fit other chord progressions, but that's when it started getting harder, because when I go back and look at this table here, like this chord progression exists in songs, but it's part of a song. It's not the whole song. Or this is part of a song, but it's not the whole song. But this 1-4-5, there are songs where that's just it, like First Noel or Silent Night, just are these three chords. So this is extremely popular, and you'll find lots and lots and lots of hymns, Christmas carols, baby songs, animal songs that fit this very sweet chord progression. Now I will say, you can overdo this. You can eat too much Christmas candy. You can, this can become too syrupy and sweet, too saccharine. At some point, you're like, ugh, I need something darker. I need something, more spicy or whatever. And that's when your minor chords come in, and we'll talk about that more in 2025. So, yeah, without any words, this kind of sound like a Christmas tune, right? Yeah, or a lullaby. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So is this helpful? Give you some things to play with? Yes? All right. So good, so good. So I encourage you, you guys are all incredibly shy or busy, I'm not sure which, but if you record something that you'd like to share in the Facebook group, I would love for you to share it. It's an inspiration to others to get out there and try. There are lots and lots and lots of people who cannot come on Tuesday nights who do listen into these classes later. So I'm also encouraging them to come and record some things and put them out there so we can be inspired by you as well. All righty, so this is our last one of the year. I'll be away vacationing at the end of the year, but we will get back on January 14th, 2025. I know, it's exciting. So I'm looking forward to your ideas of things you would like to learn. And one of the things that several people have asked me for is just practice sessions. Like we'll get together, we'll turn the cameras on, turn the microphones off just like we have, and I'll say, go for 20 minutes and you practice working on whatever you're working on, and I'll practice working what I'm working on. You can hear me if or not. Maybe I'll turn my microphone off too, but then we'll do a little share of whatever we've been working on. And maybe I'll give people like prompts, like it'd be like a writing class, but for musicians, like try this and go try this thing and do this for 20 minutes, and then we'll come back together and share what we've learned from each other. So that's what I'm thinking we'll do next. But I'm always open to ideas. Let me know what you like. All right, that's it for tonight. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I will see you. Thanks, Davey, for being here. And I will see you guys all on Facebook group and in person again next year. Have a good one.
Thank you so much, Simba.
You're welcome.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.